The Trial German. Der Prozess, previously Der Prozess, Der Prozess and Der Prozess is a novel written by Franz Kafka in 1914 and 1915 and published posthumously on the 26th of April 1925. One of his best-known works, it tells the story of Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by a remote, inaccessible authority, with the nature of his crime revealed neither to him nor to the reader. Heavily influenced by Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and the brothers Karamazov, Kafka even went so far as to call Dostoevsky a blood relative. Like Kafka's two other novels, The Trial was never completed, although it does include a chapter which appears to bring the story to an intentionally abrupt ending. Franz Kafka, 3 July 1883 to the 3rd of June 1924, was a German-speaking Bohemian novelist and short story writer, widely regarded as one of the major figures of 20th century literature. His work fuses elements of realism and the fantastic. It typically features isolated protagonists facing bizarre or surrealistic predicaments and incomprehensible socio-bureaucratic powers. It has been interpreted as exploring themes of alienation, existential anxiety, guilt, and absurdity. His best-known works include the short story, The Metamorphosis, and novels The Trial and the Castle. The term Kafkaesque has entered English to describe absurd situations, like those depicted in his writing. After Kafka's death in 1924, his friend and literary executor Max Brod edited the text for publication by Verlag Die Schmiede. The original manuscript is held at the Museum of Modern Literature, Marbach am Neckar, Germany. The first English-language translation, by Willa and Edwin Muir, was published in 1937. In 1999, the book was listed in Le Monde 100 Books of the Century and is number 2 of the best German novels of the 20th century. Summary. One morning of his 30th birthday, Joseph K., the chief cashier of a bank, is unexpectedly arrested by two unidentified agents from an unspecified agency for an unspecified crime. Joseph is not imprisoned, however, but left, free, and told to await instructions from the Committee of Affairs. Joseph's landlady, Frau Grubach, tries to console Joseph about the trial, but insinuates that the procedure may be related to an immoral relationship with his neighbor Fräulein Bürstner. Joseph visits Bürstner to vent his worries, and then kisses her. A few days later, Joseph finds that Fräulein Montag, a lodger from another room, has moved in with Fräulein Bürstner. He suspects that this maneuver is meant to distance him from Bürstner. Joseph is ordered to appear at the court's address the coming Sunday, without being told the exact time or room. After a period of exploration, Joseph finds the court in the attic. Joseph is severely reproached for his tardiness, and he arouses the assembly's hostility after a passionate plea about the absurdity of the trial and the emptiness of the accusation. Joseph later tries to confront the presiding judge over his case, but only finds an attendant's wife. The woman gives him information about the process and attempts to seduce him before a law student bursts into the room and takes the woman away, claiming her to be his mistress. The woman's husband then takes Joseph on a tour of the court offices, which ends after Joseph becomes extremely weak in the presence of other court officials and accused. Joseph later tries to confront the presiding judge over his case, but only finds an attendant's wife. The woman gives him information about the process and attempts to seduce him before a law student bursts into the room and takes the woman away, claiming her to be his mistress. The woman's husband then takes Joseph on a tour of the court offices, which ends after Joseph becomes extremely weak in the presence of other court officials and accused. One evening, in a storage room at his own bank, Joseph discovers the two agents who arrested him being whipped by a flogger for asking Joseph for bribes and as a result of complaints Joseph made at court. Joseph tries to argue with the flogger, saying that the men need not be whipped, but the flogger cannot be swayed. The next day he returns to the storage room and is shocked to find everything as he had found it the day before, including the whipper and the two agents. Joseph is visited by his uncle, a traveling countryman. Worried by the rumors about his nephew, the uncle introduces Joseph to Herr Hult, a sickly and bedridden lawyer tended to by Lenny, a young nurse who shows an immediate attraction to Joseph. During the conversation, Lenny calls Joseph away and takes him to the next room for a sexual encounter. Afterward, Joseph meets his angry uncle outside, who claims that Joseph's lack of respect for the process has hurt his case. During subsequent visits to Hult, Joseph realizes that he is a capricious character who will not be of much help. At the bank, one of Joseph's clients recommends him to seek the advice of Titerelli, the court's official painter. Titerelli has no real influence within the court, but his deep experience of the process is painfully illuminating to Joseph, and he can only suggest complex and unpleasant hypothetical options, as no definitive acquittal has ever been managed. Joseph finally decides to dismiss Hult and take control of matters himself. Upon arriving at Hult's office, Joseph meets a downtrodden individual, Rudy Bloch, a client who offers Joseph some insight from a client's perspective. Bloch's case has continued for 5 years and he has gone from being a successful businessman to being almost bankrupt and is virtually enslaved by his dependence on the lawyer and Lenny, with whom he appears to be sexually involved. The lawyer mocks Bloch in front of Joseph for his dog-like subservience. This experience further poisons Joseph's opinion of his lawyer. Joseph is put in charge of accompanying an important Italian client to the city's cathedral. While inside the cathedral, a priest calls Joseph by name and tells him a fable which was published earlier as before the law, that is meant to explain his situation. The priest tells Joseph that the parable is an ancient text of the court, and many generations of court officials have interpreted it differently. On the eve of Joseph's 31st birthday, two men arrive at his apartment to execute him. They lead him to a small quarry outside the city, and kill him with a butcher's knife. Joseph summarizes his situation with his last words, like a dog. Joseph K., the tale's protagonist, a 30-year-old, unmarried bank administrator living in an unnamed city. Fräulein Bürstner, a boarder in the same house as Joseph K. She lets him kiss her one night, but then rebuffs his advances. K. briefly catches sight of her, or someone who looks similar to her, in the final pages of the novel. Fräulein Montag, friend of Fräulein Bürstner, she talks to K about ending his relationship with Fräulein Bürstner after his arrest. She claims she can bring him insight, because she is an objective third party. Willem and Franz, officers who arrest K one morning but refuse to disclose the crime he is said to have committed. They are later flogged. Inspector Man who conducts a proceeding at Joseph K's boarding house to inform K officially that he is under arrest. Rubinsteiner, Kulak and Kaminer junior bank employees who attend the proceeding at the boarding house. Frau Grubach, the proprietress of the lodging house in which K lives. She holds K in high esteem, despite his arrest. Woman in court. The first judgment of K happens in her house. She claims help from K because she does not want to be abused by the magistrates. Student deformed man who acts under orders of the instruction judge. Will be a powerful man in the future. Instruction judge. First judge of K in his trial. He confuses K with a wall painter. Uncle Carl. K's impetuous uncle from the country, formerly his guardian. Upon hearing of the trial, Carl insists that K hire Herr Huld, the lawyer. Herr Huld, the lawyer. K's pompous and pretentious advocate who provides little in the way of action and far too much in the way of anecdote. Lenny, Herr Huld's nurse. She has feelings for Joseph K and soon becomes his lover. She shows him her webbed hand, yet another reference to the motif of the hand throughout the book. Apparently, she finds accused men extremely attractive. The fact of their indictment makes them irresistible to her. Albert, office director at the court, and a friend of Huld. Flogger man who punishes Franz and Willem in the bank after K's complaints against the two agents in his first judgment. Vice President K's unctuous rival at the bank, only too willing to catch K in a compromising situation. He repeatedly takes advantage of K's preoccupation with the trial to advance his own ambitions. President manager of the bank, a sickly figure, whose position the vice president is trying to assume. Gets on well with K, inviting him to various engagements. Rudy Block, the merchant. Block is another accused man and client of Huld. His case is 5 years old, and he is but a shadow of the prosperous grain dealer he once was. All his time, energy, and resources are now devoted to his case, to the detriment of his own life. Although he has hired 5 additional lawyers on the side, he is completely and pathetically subservient to Huld. Manufacturer. Person who hears about K's case and advises him to see a painter who knows how the court system works. Titorelli, the painter. Titorelli inherited the position of court painter from his father. He knows a great deal about the comings and goings of the court's lowest level. He offers to help K, and manages to unload a few identical landscape paintings on the accused man. Priest. Prison chaplain whom K encounters in a church. The priest advises K that his case is going badly and tells him to accept his fate. Doorkeeper and farmer. The characters of the chaplain's tale.